Okay, friends, so now we are at the third chapter of the book, and the title of the chapter is Own Your Career or Somebody Else Will. And the corresponding quote for this book is from M. Scott Peck, the author of The Road Less Traveled. And he says, the problem of distinguishing what we are and what we are not responsible for in life is one of the greatest problems of human existence. And I guess one of the things that you are squarely responsible for is your own career. Let's be very clear about it. It's not your HR, it's not your boss, it's not your family members who are endowed with the responsibility of shaping your career. It is you and only you. You should be very clear about that. And I can't overstate. So, how do you really design a career? And as I go through the book, I've moved from individual choices, okay, which is about how do we protect your attention, how do we develop a thick skin, focus on the important stuff, and being more compassionate and empathetic, being more creative. We now look at the professional sphere and how do we shape a career which is with just justice to your talent. And I start the career with this chapter with this wonderful journey of Arundhati Bhattacharya, the former chief of State Bank of India, and how wonderfully she has transitioned her career from rising to the helm of State Bank of India and then heading the India operations for this large organization, which is Salesforce. So the first thing or the first invocation here for you is that your body is an asset and not a resource. You see, human resources is a common phrase that we use here, and we think of humans as resources, like in a very crude sense, a resource that goes into a process and then comes out as finished goods, like any other resource like coal, etc. But I think humans are not resources. Your body is not a resource. Your body is an asset. And if you treat your body as a resource to be consumed versus an asset to be preserved and to be maintained and to be valued, people will precisely treat you like that. So I don't like this word human resource for some reason, because it demeans who we are. But whatever people may consider you, what is important is for you to respect your body. Because if you don't respect your body, the body then doesn't respect you. Because think about that for a moment. What are you really carrying all the way to your grave? The only thing you're carrying all the way to your funeral is your body. And if you're not careful about your body right now, it doesn't help, because you don't really want to carry a weak body and ailing body in a long life with all that you could potentially do with your money. As the Dalai Lama says, we are a very funny species in the sense that we spend a lot of our physical body and health in getting money, and then after a certain point of time we spend all that money in regaining our health. So it's very critical that you are being conscious about your health as you go about it. So your body is an asset and not a resource. And very interestingly, Warren Buffett also talks about with a parable of you getting a car, one single car in your entire life, and you would rather take care of that car very well. So think about that car as your body. So if you've got only one body and one mind, why not be very, very cautious about it? The time for passion is now. You see, suddenly in the last few years, a lot many more options have been opened up to you in terms of career choices, which were hitherto impossible. If a couple of years back somebody would have asked you about career choices that you have, it was almost unthinkable to consider things like being a working from home mother or being a freelancer or spending the rest of your life as a gig worker. But thanks to pandemic and thanks to the revolution that we had in the last few years, all these are possibilities. But we are not exercising those possibilities. We are still possibly operating from a sense of fear, and that's what needs to be changed. So the time for passion is now, and here I talk about a bunch of people who have really gone ahead and taken their passion to the heights of their professional achievements, whether it is the world of sports or literature, or for example, Devdutt Patnaik, who is a very proficient commentator on Indian mythology and how he has connected the insights from Indian mythology to the world of business. Or for example, Harsha Bhogle, who hasn't been a cricketer all his life, but his penchant for commentating on cricket has really made him a global voice. And a bunch of other people who have taken taken their career to a level where it has really become substantial. So I think it's very critical now that you listen to the career in a slightly unreasonable fashion and take the best that your profession has to offer. Which also means that your career has to be a portfolio of enterprise. Gone are the days when you can declare yourself as a one organization person. So you can't be a company person, even if that is your own company. You can't afford to be a company person. It is very critical to have a portfolio of enterprise. And this portfolio of enterprise is not only meant to hedge your risk of ruin or to give you multiple sources of income, but I think it's also critical for you to have a sense of identity which is not so much dependent on one piece. So it's very critical not to mistake your identity for loyalty. You may be a very loyal employee of an organization, but that is not you. Your organization or your title is not you. You are much, much beyond. And here I talk about two interesting examples. The first is Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and the second is APJ Kalam. Both of these men did not strictly define themselves in any straitjacketed fashion, neither as a politician or a diplomat. Vajpayee was an amazing orator, was an amazing author, a poet, a singer, and many, many dimensions to his life, which I discuss in the book. Similarly, if I look at Winston Churchill, the two-time Prime Minister of UK, saw UK reviving itself during the Second World War when France was captured unceremoniously, and he goes on to win Nobel Prize. And guess what? Winston Churchill wins Nobel Prize in literature. So in his twilight years, or what he calls his wilderness years, he wrote no less than 242 articles, 475 speeches, and 233 paintings. What is stopping you? So think hard about what you're spending your time with, and don't be parasitic in the pretext of being loyal. And here I talk about my own career trajectories from an employee to a researcher to an entrepreneur, and now trying to be an author. And I try to ensure that even now I have a portfolio, a rich portfolio, where I'm writing, I'm advocating, I'm consulting, I'm researching, teaching, and also living. And I guess in today's time and age, if you're slightly experimentative, all that is very much a possibility. Work hard, but keep tinkering. Oscar Wilde once very famously quipped, "Hard work is simply the refuge of people who have nothing else to do." Which is to say that if you are not imaginative enough, the only thing you do is hard work. And I always believe that creativity does not require you to work hard. Creativity requires you to think hard. And most people would rather not think hard and die, because they have outsourced thinking to somebody else. They have outsourced thinking to the people higher up, outsourced thinking to the more wiser in the society, and they said, you think and I'll do. Don't ask me to think. Well, that's only finite. And the reason why it is so, because somewhere in our societies we have put a very high premium on working hard. Angela Duckworth, in her very famous book Grit, gives us this very simple equation. She says that talent into effort is skill, and skill into effort is achievement. In a sense, that effort has a multiplier effect, a square effect on whatever talent and skill which you have. The only disagreement I have is that an effort in a wrong direction doesn't result into anything. So while you need to have grit to be able to persist with something, you also need to have an ability to tinker the direction. Because as Stephen Covey would very famously say, that before you start climbing a ladder, you have to ensure the ladder is leaning against the right wall. So there is no marks for working hard in a direction that is not yielding results to you. And many people call it as a smart work, but I don't understand smart work, honestly speaking. I'm more of a experimentative avocado. And what I would like to offer to you is that grit into tinkering as achievement. You need to keep tinkering. And as I said before, many people find it very easy to forgive others. What they find it difficult is to forgive yourself. So it's very critical that once in a while you are setting up yourself for mistakes, even if they are quite public, and you say sorry and you move on. It's okay, because anyways you're going to die someday. So what's the big deal there? The question is, do you have the luxury of falling? Do you have the luxury of failing? And if you don't give yourself that luxury of failing, I think you are putting yourself under a tremendous amount of pressure. One of the other things which I realized along my entrepreneurial journey is financial freedom keeps you intellectually honest. Many things which I can say, write, advocate are things that I would have never ever done if I was not financially independent. So the question then that is for you is that is your money making you more independent intellectually or less independent intellectually? And if your money is not giving you more and better choices in life, then you're doing it all wrong. And what's the point of evolution when you are thereabout a highly paid slave? So why do you need financial freedom? You need financial freedom so that you are honest, so that you don't have to work for money, so that the money works for you. So 3 tips here. The first is don't seek resources, be resourceful. If you want to do something, you don't need any reason. And if you don't want to do something, you will never run out of excuses. So it's very critical that you develop a propensity for you to utilize whatever resources are available to you given the time that you is available. Be a good salesperson. You see, everybody is a salesperson. If somebody asks me what is the sine qua non skill of being an entrepreneur, I would simply advocate you need to be a very good salesperson. Because as an entrepreneur, as an employee, what are you doing? You're selling all the time. And I'll read straight from the book because I thought I did a good job. Okay. You're always selling somebody. So as an entrepreneur, you're selling dreams to the investors, career to the employees, concepts to the customers, and glory to yourself. So no shame in being a salesperson. Seek forgiveness and seeking permission. In our culture, please comes more readily than sorry. But what I would advocate is that I'm sorry I messed it up, should come more easily, more readily to you than please. Because whom are you seeking permission from? The people whom you are seeking permission from in your life are no better off. They know no better. So don't seek permission. Learn at your own peril and not at the premise of people around you. Pursue and protect your freedom. One of my central drivers has been pursuit of freedom. Not so much pursuit of happiness, but pursuit of freedom. And I would really fight tooth and nail if my freedom is taken away from me. And if it means that I have to see financial hardships, so be it. The critical thing is to protect your freedom. Protect your freedom of expression. Because what is the point in living in an independent country if your thoughts are not independent? If you have to think 10 times before shooting an email, if you have to really watch behind your shoulders and around yourself before uttering something which you really believe in, because there will be a day when the people whom you are fearing would not exist, but that day your fear suddenly would not disappear. Which means that don't live on borrowed courage. I strongly believe that I can never teach you courage. Nobody can teach you courage. Only situations can teach you courage, and only that you can learn courage. But the question is, who is the mother of courage? Where do you get courage from? And in this book, I give you a lot of examples and stories from my own life on where I draw courage from. But I believe that I draw courage from clarity. If you can think through a situation, that what happens next, you will automatically have courage. Most people live on borrowed courage because they don't want to do the hard thinking part of it. They just want to let somebody else think for them. So clarity gives you courage. And where do you get clarity? Well, my friends, you get clarity from content. If you have content, believe me, you don't have to fear anybody or any situation. So that was it for chapter number 3, which is how do you really own your career and not let somebody else own your career? Because frankly speaking, if you don't own your career, somebody else will. And for the longest time, it was your parents, then your spouse, in between your friends, and no soon it will be your children and grandchildren. So you take your career by the horns, and I hope this little piece was useful to you. So after the break, we'll look at chapter number 4, which is on focus on high leverage activities. Thank you so much.